take a breath. And let it go. Let it go. Because there's nothing that can hold us hostage to anything except our own attachment to it. And sometimes our attachment isn't necessarily looking like it's negative. Right? Sometimes our attachment to things that are preventing our growth look like judgment. But the judgment is subtle. Oh, I'm not demonstrating that really the way I wanted to demonstrate it. I guess my prayers aren't like clear enough, or I'm not strong enough, or the power of God isn't moving in me quickly enough to. I mean, we start these subtle ways of judging ourselves for not being good enough, for not being spiritual enough, you know, not being Christian enough, not being whatever enough, you know, not being American enough. I mean, you can choose the descriptive, doesn't matter. But the truth underneath all of it is that who we are is God. There's only one. Those of you that are familiar with the 5 steps of treatment, as practitioners of truth that we do, I believe there's only one step in treatment. God is. Amen. If we can get that, it is only God here. What was it? I mean, this day has been just a day already of the message being that God is here where I am, was the earlier meditation. God is right here where I am. Well, God is what we are. Where else would God be? But God is all there is. There's nothing else. There's nothing out there to harm us, nothing to hurt us, nothing to do anything but love us, regardless of the story we tell it. Because it's listening. We're all listening. We're all in this together, helping one another through this thing called life. So, judgment can lead us to a sense of salvation, a breath of fresh air. I was recently in Cambria, up near San Simeon, and I was there with a couple of friends. We were driving up Highway 1 to look at the elephant seals. And so we're driving up the road, and we're all practitioners and spiritual beings. You know? We're light shining. We're going. And so we see coming southward this guy walking. Clearly a man who's been on the road for a while. And he has a backpack with an American flag flying out of it. You know, a little bit tattered, but he's just walking along, and, you know. And you look over, and the 3 of us start talking. We start talking about him and say, you know, gosh, you know, well, what's up with that dude, you know? And then we start thinking, well, gosh, yeah, you know, that kind of person's kind of a little bit scary, you know. Do you remember, like, after September 11th, when all that happened, and all those guys in pickup trucks were driving those big old American flags in the back, and there was this militia movement, and there's all this stuff, and I mean, we were going. I mean, we were just like, we were building a story of like, oh my God, this man, he was, in that backpack, he had a lot of our baggage. You know? It was like, I don't know how heavy that thing was. But the interesting thing about the story is that then we went up to he passed. I mean, he was gone. You know, we were up there. We were up at the elephant seals for a while. And driving back down, we thought we'd go down to the pier at San Simeon. Beautiful place, you know, beautiful beach, the tourist castle up in the distance. And we go out to the pier and look at these beautiful waves, and we're all light again. And we come back from the pier, and we notice over by the dumpster that there's someone over there, like, throwing breadcrumbs that up into the air, and this flock of seagulls and ravens just kind of catching breadcrumbs in the middle of the air. And we're kind of like, wow, kind of energy around that. And so I walked around and I looked over there and I noticed by the dumpster was this backpack with an American flag in it. And so I went over to him and I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" You know, and he's like, "Oh, I'm walking. I've been walking for 10 years across America." And I said, "Really?" I said, and I said to him, I said, "Are you okay?" Excuse me. I said, "Are you okay?" Because I wanted to make sure he was okay. You know, I mean, it wasn't out of anything patronizing, but it was just my fellow human being. It's like, "Are you all right?" You know. And he said, "Oh, well, some people think my thinking's off." And there's something wrong with my brain. But he said, "No, I'm okay." And I said, "Oh, good." I said, so we just, you know, we're chatting some, and then I kind of said goodbye and went over to my friends who were standing about 10 feet away, and I said, "I really want to give him some money." And they're like, "Okay, well, let's just, so we got some money together, and, not a king's ransom, but, just some money to help him on the road. And I gave it to him. This man just hugged me, and I was so grateful. I was so absolutely grateful for just a sense of human kindness. That was so easy to give. So easy. What did that take? What does that take for any one of us to reach out a hand in kindness to one another when we may or may not be having a hard time ourselves, or if they're having a hard time? It's like, what does it take us? It's like so easy. So after he hugged me, he started walking away. And as I walked away, he said, "Hey, does any one of you have an iPhone?" And I said, "Well," that was kind of like my skeptic, but like, how is that gone? I'm like, right? Because I'm human. I'm human. I'm not superhuman without any of this. You know what I mean? It's like we're all in this together. We all have this stuff. And I say, "Well, I do." He said, "Well," he said, and he pulled out his knapsack and said, "I found this iPhone up on a turnout up by Big Sur, and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to power it on. Would you take it and you could like power it on and find the owner?" So I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll take it." So now I'm just like blown away. I'm like, holy cow, it is all God. And God is so great. And there is so much grace and love in this universe, and we are just simply elements of it. If we just accept ourselves for who we are in all of ourselves. And so I say, so I go back to my friend's house in Cambria, and I plug it in, and and I'm waiting. So it's like powers up. So it finally powers up, and I see it, and so I think, okay, well then I go to this person's email, and I find out their email address, and I go to my iPhone, and I type in the information, and I send her an email. And I'm like a kid that evening, that night, I go to bed like it is Christmas Eve and Santa Claus is coming in the morning. I mean, that kind of anticipation, that joyous anticipation, because I know something good is happening, right? Something good, you know it, you got it. Something good is happening, right? So I end up, and the next morning I get up, and there's an email. Oh no, excuse me. There's a phone call, a voicemail message from this person, this woman, whose phone it was. And in it, she just is going on and on. You can hear the grin. It turns out that her 14-year-old son, she was a caterer, and her 14-year-old son somehow had thrown her iPhone out the car while he was driving. She was like, "Oh, not that you." So but in the course of her message, she said, "Oh my gosh, you've restored my faith in humanity." And I was like, whoa, oh my gosh, what a gift I was just given. I got to partake in someone's restoration of faith in who we are, and the very humanity that connects us all, that is us all. the substance of what we are. So I tell her, hey, I said, I need to know your address, blah, blah, blah. So I get all the information. And two of my friends, and I go down to the post office. So I go into the post office, and I'm like trying to pack up this phone and get post office supplies, and it's a tiny little post office. And I get up there and I start chatting with the postal clerk, and I start telling her the story. And so all of a sudden she says, she's in the middle of a transaction, and she's like got it all figured out, and she's at the register, and she just goes, you know what? She goes, this is such an amazing story. I'm not charging you for sending this. She goes, you know what? So you left, and this goes no further than this room. The U.S. Postal Service actually sends lost items back free of postage and others all the time, I guess. I guess it's more common than I knew. And anyway, she said, you know what? I just love this story that I'm going to pass this kindness on. So from my judgment to my divinity, right? How many of us stop at the judgment and then judge ourselves for judging? Rather than accept the fact that we're human, that we make mistakes, false ideas about things, we're not perfect. How many of us stop at that instead of allowing us that beautiful ark where, what was that saying that this morning about Isaiah? The Spirit of the Lord walks before me. Because that's what met me when I got to that post office and released that iPhone from my life. So what I'm here to say today is that change is always for the better. You guys are all ready to change it all up here. Right? I mean, I can't only imagine. I know change is everywhere. It's in the air. It really is. Everyone says our country's changing really fast. All kinds of things. I'm sure a lot of you here have seen myriad changes in your lifetime. Ruth Eaton used to have my job at headquarters. Change comes and goes. Right? People come and go. Life changes. Everything changes. And we all end up in the same room together. Thank you very much.